my ancestor that I got in SCV on, James Rufus Settle. James Rufus was a private in Company A of Ham's Cavalry Regiment. He was born November 23rd, 1844 in Chester County, South Carolina. He was the fifth of 8 children that were born to David and James Settle. His fourth great-grandfather, Francis Settle, came to this country from Yorkshire, England in 1656. And then his great-grandfather, Josiah, was living in Virginia, was a patriot in the American Revolution. Josiah received a land grant for his military service in North Carolina, moved his family to what is now Rockingham County, North Carolina. David Settle, Josiah's James Rufus's father, was born in 1804 in Rockingham, North Carolina, where the family had been for several generations. David moved to Chester County, South Carolina, married Jane Lewis in 1835, and James Rufus was born in Chester County. Family moved to Marshall County, Mississippi in 1848. They brought a farm which is just northwest of Holly Springs and lived there for about 10 years. We've talked about families being in conflict over the war. Ours was no different. David had a brother, Benjamin, that came down about the same time as he did from South Carolina. Benjamin bought a farm in Fayette County, Tennessee, just across the Tennessee line from where David was located. I had to do a good bit of searching to find the details, and I ran across a newspaper account. Benjamin was a Union sympathizer, believe it or not, and he was ambushed and killed on January the 20th, 1864. He was going back home from Somerville, Tennessee. The newspaper account said that he was killed by Confederate guerrillas. He left a widow and 9 children. David, when he left Marshall County, he bought a section of land, 640 acres at Biggersville in Alcorn County, over here, near here. Bought that farm in 1859. In 1860, he was apparently a pretty prosperous farmer. He was listed as owning 8 slaves, and he was working 640 acres of land. David had 4 sons. One died when they were in Marshall County, Mississippi, as a teenager. Of his 3 other sons, Thomas Benjamin Settle, which we call Ben, enlisted at Kossuth as a private Company D of the 23rd Mississippi Infantry Regiment. He escaped capture at Fort Donelson, February the 16th, 1862, returned home and enlisted in Company D, 32nd Mississippi Infantry Regiment, Flowers Regiment, on March 13th, 1862. And he was a 3rd sergeant when he was discharged from that unit. I've been trying to dig up some family connections with Bill A. there because of our ancestors that were both in the 23rd. We may be kin. The other brother, Samuel Lewis Settle, we'll call him Sam Settle, enlisted in Enterprise, Mississippi as a private in Company D, 32nd Mississippi Infantry, with his brother Ben. He enlisted October 3rd, 1863, and he was promoted to 3rd Corporal in April of 1864. Ben and Sam served apparently without injury through the duration of the war, and both were paroled in Greensboro, North Carolina on May the 1st, 1865. Now, my great-grandfather, James Rufus, was the youngest son. He enlisted at Tupelo, Mississippi as a private in Company A of Ham's Cavalry Regiment. He enlisted April the 2nd, 1864. His enlistment noted that he brought his own horse and gun. Well, somebody took his horse from him. according to what was passed down, what my dad told me, he spent most of his military service riding a mule. So somebody got his horse. May and June of 1864, his records show that he was detailed as a picket on the Big Black River near Vicksburg. And then on July the 25th, 1864, his brigade was in the lines at Atlanta, Georgia, and his colonel, Colonel Ham, was killed at Atlanta. Then, in December 1864, the unit suffered heavy losses defending against Grierson's raids at Egypt, Mississippi. Then at the end of March 1865, Ham's cavalry was consolidated with Ashcraft and Lowry's cavalry unit, and they became the 11th Consolidated Mississippi Cavalry Regiment. They were under the command of General Nathan Bedford Forrest. That really threw me for a loop, and some of y'all get to hunting your military records. Those consolidations and everything can throw you off. I had records showing James Rufus was in Ham's cavalry. I had other records showing he was 11th Cavalry. But I found the consolidation finally and solved that problem. Under Forrest's command, they were defending Selma, Alabama, quite close to the end of the war. They were outnumbered 3-1 by Union General James H. Wilson, who was besieging Selma. And on April 2nd, 1865, Selma fell. James Rufus was captured. Another family story that was passed down to me, when the Confederates were routed, if you look at the map, sometimes just east of Selma, there's a bend in the Alabama River, and they were trapped in that river bend. James Rufus said several of his fellow soldiers tried to swim, but they got tangled up in vines and drowned. But James Rufus, thank goodness, didn't try that, and I'm here tonight. But after the capture, they took the prisoners to Montgomery, Alabama. They were paroled May the 4th, 1865. James Rufus had to walk home barefooted. And when we get through, I've got a wallet, some Confederate money that he brought back with him, and some other mementos there that you can look at after the program's over. James Rufus married Margaret McDougal in 1878. He had 2 sons, William McDougal Settle, who was my grandfather, and Samuel LeMan Settle. His wife died when these 2 boys were real young, and J.R. stayed there and farmed and raised his family there in Bakersfield. He never remarried. Ben and Sam were in business in Corinth, mercantile business. They sold their business 1894 and moved to Texas, Dodge City, Texas. They're both buried in the Dodge City Cemetery out there. James Rufus, my dad said, never would eat field peas. I asked him why, and he said James Rufus told him that was jail food. Apparently for that month or so that he was a prisoner, that's all they had to eat was peas, dry peas. So that was one of the remembrances of him. James Rufus died on November the 2nd, 1934. He's buried beside his wife in New Hope Presbyterian Church Cemetery at Bakersfield. And I appreciate your time, and I would invite you to look at some of the things I brought.